Hello everyone. This is the 22nd part of the story, Marvel Unlimited Skills, I Can Download. Chapter 150, Hopeless. And this hopeless middle-aged man was Bruce's goal. The future Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, Stephen Vincent Strange. At this moment, Mordo did not find Stephen Vincent Strange's existence, which made Bruce have a chance. Then, without any hesitation, Bruce directly took off the Ant-Man's battle suit, recovered the normal size, and walked towards Stephen Vincent Strange. No matter what it would happen, it was better to be the first to act. At this moment, Stephen Vincent Strange had been surrounded by some bullies. Even though he was very poor, his watch on his wrist was worth tens of thousands of dollars. Because he was an excellent surgeon before, he would not be extremely poor. Just like an old saying said, a starved camel is bigger than a horse. And those bullies always could see the most valuable things in the first place. When Stephen Vincent Strange was surrounded by them, his hands were shaking constantly. He felt helpless again. If he was not in a car accident or did not have an operation before, he would be able to deal with these bullies, but now he could not do anything. I don't have any valuable things right now. At the moment, Stephen Vincent Strange's eyes were full of pleading. He had always been in the upper class of society, and the Doctor's identity also made him gain most people's respect, so he was never so down and out. "You have a watch and give it to me," the leading bully directly said. They could see that this man in front of them was very weak, so he became their target. "I can't give to you. It's the only thing I have." At the moment, Stephen Vincent Strange said. Indeed, the watch was his only thing and he did not have anything left. "You have no choice." One of the bullies said. They would not give up this chance easily since they had met this weak man. "All right." Stephen Vincent Strange's face appeared a hint of helplessness now, indicating that he would take off the watch. But without any pre-warnings, he directly attacked when the bullies were relaxed. His right hand hit a person's face directly. The power of an adult man was very strong, plus the bullies did not have any preparations, so no one could stand such a sudden attack. But now, Stephen Vincent Strange's hand's hurt was so serious that he did not cause too much damage to the person. Instead, his hand was shaking, and a strong sense of pain made him keep sweating. After the others reacted, they immediately attacked. This was his most down moment. He was not only beaten by others, but also was robbed of his only watch. At the moment, his eyes were full of anger, but he did not have the power to fight back. Then a black figure appeared in front of everyone. The man did not hide his face and walked to them step by step. At the next moment, a bully was directly thrown into the wall and fainted. Others were knocked down by Bruce directly before they could react, and they lost their combat strength. These people were just ordinary humans, so they were like paper pastes when facing Bruce. And they were too weak as if they could be directly broken by Bruce's slight touch. Therefore, Bruce was very careful when he was fighting. He was afraid that he would crush them directly. But even so, even if these people recovered, they would also become a disabled man. At this moment, the Doctor Strange who was lying on the ground had reacted, then he looked at Bruce vacantly. Bruce did not speak. He just stretched out his palm and looked at the people in front of him. Then the Doctor Strange got his meaning, standing up relying on Bruce's palm. He said, "Thank you." When did he have to rely on others to save? He was a proud man, but his pride had all disappeared because of the car accident. At the moment, he really had the feeling of being an ordinary person. "Are you looking for Camartage?" Right now, Bruce looked at Stephen Vincent Strange who was in front of him, and said directly. After Stephen Vincent Strange heard Bruce's words, he was shocked. Originally, he intended to give up looking for it, but when he heard this name, he was cheered up again. "Do you know where Camartage is? Can you take me there?" At the moment, Bruce was his last chance. He had found this place according to others' instructions before, but he didn't find Camartage. Now that someone said this name though, obviously he was very happy. "Of course I know, but why should I take you there?" Bruce did not immediately promise him. Although this Doctor Strange was a little proud in the movie and he was also an upright person, Bruce wanted to see it in person. I can give you what you want. At the moment, Stephen Vincent Strange said. This was his only chance to recover his physical function. As long as he recovered, he could give what Bruce wanted. However, Bruce shook his head. If it was before, the money was very useful to him. But now, he was not interested in many things in the secular world. Let's talk about it later. Come with me. Then Bruce turned around directly without looking at Stephen Vincent Strange. The present Doctor Strange could not give what Bruce wanted. When he touched Doctor Strange's body before, he had already seen his information and there were no special abilities. Good. At this moment, Doctor Strange followed Bruce and walked towards Kamar-Taj. At the moment, Mordo saw all this in the distance. Then he shook his head and he was indeed late. Therefore, he did not move ahead, but he went back to Kamar-Taj. On the other side, Bruce had walked to the door of Kamar-Taj with Stephen Vincent Strange. There was nothing special here. It was just a normal door. Is this Kamar-Taj? At the moment, Stephen Vincent Strange was a little confused. In his eyes, Kamar-Taj was supposed to be a place like a holy place. But now it seemed that it was inferior to a place where civilians lived. This made him doubtful. I think the opposite side looks more like Kamar-Taj. Then Stephen Vincent Strange pointed to the luxurious temple which was not far away, and that place indeed looked more like a holy place. But Bruce slowly opened the door, with a smile on his face. If you think it's true, you can go there. Maybe it can cure your hand. After saying that, Bruce left directly. At this moment, Stephen Vincent Strange glanced at the temple not far away, then he was determined to follow Bruce and walked into the normal door directly. The moment he walked into this door, a powerful space force turned. The present Stephen Vincent Strange felt as if he had walked into another world. At the moment, Bruce stood in front of him with a smile. Chapter 151, New World. Not everything is as simple as it seems to be. At the moment, Bruce stood in front of Stephen Vincent Strange and said this slowly, and Stephen Vincent Strange was very shocked now. Stephen Vincent Strange was just aware of what he had experienced, but he was completely unable to describe the experience he had just experienced. This place is known as Kamar-Taj, and is also the holy place where the Sorcerer Supreme lives. And the person you want to see is called Ancient One. At the moment, Bruce slowly said, and then both Mordo and Ancient One also appeared behind Doctor Strange. It was just that Stephen Vincent Strange had not yet felt it. Ancient One, is he really called by this name? Stephen Vincent Strange looked around and his eyes were full of doubt. In fact, he did not know that Ancient One was a male or female. This place seemed to be a religious place, and he still retained his attitude about whether there was magic in the world. And Bruce understood him very much. After all, it was difficult to make a person who had been believing in science in the past suddenly believe magic. Even if it was the other superheroes, they could hardly believe the existence of magic. You have come here now. If you want to cure your hand, you need to forget everything you had learned before, because it was impossible to explain magic scientifically, at least so far. At this moment, Mordo looked at Stephen Vincent Strange, who was in front of him and said slowly. In fact, Mordo was also very clear about Stephen Vincent Strange's present mood. Because when he first contacted magic, he also did not believe it at first and thought everything was too incredible. Well, I'll forget it. Stephen Vincent Strange's greatest wish was to cure his hand. As long as he could cure his hand, he would not care anything. At this moment, Ancient One handed him a cup of tea water. Stephen looked at her and said immediately, "Thank you, Master Ancient One." The Ancient One said, "You're welcome." And what happened next was the same as the plot in the movie. Ancient One was explaining the magic to Stephen Vincent Strange, while he was trying to understand magic in a scientific way. And Mordo, who stood on the side, could not help laughing. Right now, the present Stephen Vincent Strange was definitely very ignorant in their eyes. Whereafter, Ancient One took out a basic magic book in front of Stephen Vincent Strange and told him that if he wanted to cure his hand, he needed to rely on spiritual strength. And this sentence made Stephen Vincent Strange completely stunned. He was a man who accepted decades of modern education, and was told by others suddenly that if he wanted to cure himself, he needed the power of spirit and mind. This was not a superstition. At the moment, Stephen Vincent Strange said, "I had traveled thousands of miles and spent all the remaining savings to buy a single ticket to find ways to cure me. But you just told me that I need to rely on the mind and soul to heal my hand. I'm so stupid." The present Doctor Strange was very angry. He thought he was cheated. But his move was normal in everyone's eyes. However, Mordo really thought he was very stupid. In fact, like humans and animals were also very stupid in the eyes of humans. The magic world and the real world of science and technology were indeed two completely different worldviews. "I need you to calm down." At the moment, Ancient One said. She had lived so long, and naturally she could accept the emotions of Stephen Vincent Strange. It was only that Stephen Vincent Strange was really desperate. Right now, science could not save him, and he also had already denied that magic could cure him now. "Your theory is really stupid. I don't believe that there is soul and magic in the world. It's the most stupid thing for me to come here in my life." But at this moment, Ancient One directly pulled Stephen Vincent Strange and then hit his soul out from his body with a palm. The powerful and mysterious force swarmed into Stephen Vincent Strange's body, and then the terrifying power directly slapped his entire soul outside. Right now, he saw himself like a transparent thing, and in his surroundings, Ancient One, Bruce, Mordo and himself were all standing in the same place. What happened? This made Stephen Vincent Strange feel very shocked and incredible. Then the next moment, his body and soul were combined together again. "What are you doing to me? What have you done?" This was the first time that he had experienced this, so he felt curious and fearful in his heart. He had never touched this before. "Nothing. I had just slapped your soul outside," Ancient One said, without any expression on his face. "No, it's magic medicine, just T has problems." Stephen said this firmly, and he still did not believe that people had souls. At the next moment, the master held his head directly. Then his wonderful and splendid journey began again. Everything around had changed, and Stephen Vincent Strange disappeared in Camartage. At the moment, Mordo and Bruce stood up and looked at the Ancient One in front of them. If this goes on, his body will not be able to stand it. Mordo was a little worried now. After all, Stephen Vincent Strange was just an ordinary person. But Ancient One did not say anything and Bruce also stood aside silently. Of course, Bruce knew what Ancient One was thinking. It was the only way to make Stephen Vincent Strange believe the existence of magic in a short time. Nobody knew how long it took. Stephen Vincent Strange's wonderful journey was completely over. All that he had experienced before made him have an unprecedented feeling. It was so wonderful and amazing. At the moment, he was stunned as if he was rethinking everything had happened before. And only real magic could do these. Yes, it was the real magic. At this moment, he was totally amazed. All the things he had learned in his previous life were all overthrown by the person. But he was a smart man who knew this power would definitely help him recover. "Please, teach me." The present Stephen Vincent Strange did not have his previous arrogance, but he only wanted to learn such magic. Number. Ancient One refused him and left directly. Then Stephen Vincent Strange was also being sent out of Camartage by a mysterious force. At this moment, Mordo was confused about whether Stephen Vincent Strange was the next Sorcerer Supreme. Chapter 152, Teaching. Mordo did not know why Ancient One did so, but he did not dare to ask. After all, it was about the Sorcerer Supreme. But Bruce followed Ancient One with a thoughtful expression on his face. "Master, do you really want to do this?" It was definitely unclear for someone else to understand Bruce's words. But Ancient One knew what Bruce meant. For any other person, Ancient One would teach him slowly instead of giving him such a large amount of information at the beginning. Because at first, any person who walked out of modern society would be definitely afraid if you let him suddenly accept a thing called the magic world. Therefore, Ancient One usually needed to teach them slowly. But Ancient One did not do the same to this Stephen Vincent Strange. There was no other reason, just because he would be the next Sorcerer Supreme. More importantly, Ancient One did not have much time now. So she had to teach some basic magic knowledge to Stephen Vincent Strange in the shortest time in order to let him better understand his important responsibility. I have to do this now. In the future, he has to face the invasion of Dormammu. At the moment, the Ancient One stood by the Eye of Agamotto, and she looked at the virtual body of the earth floating in the air, at the same time examining the defenses of the three holy places. She also observed the erosion of the dark dimension to the real world. Even though she did not have much time now, she still wanted to finish her final work. Maybe he is not ready now. Then Bruce said he understood Ancient One's anxiety, but if she did so, there would be a trace of bad consequence. And it was also Ancient One's anxiety which made her die and eventually led to Mordo's departure. In fact, Ancient One knew all these, but she still did it. No one has been ready. At first, I'm still worried about it, but now you're here. You can guard the real world and help the next Sorcerer Supreme, that's enough. At the moment, the Ancient One looked at Bruce very seriously. Before that, Bruce promised her to help the next Sorcerer Supreme to guard the real world. And this was why Ancient One would do this. Even though Stephen Vincent Strange was not ready, there would be no danger. I know, but I will still say that the appearance of the next Sorcerer Supreme doesn't mean your death. At the moment, Bruce once again said the topic. He really did not want the Ancient One to die like this. Because she was really a powerful combat power in the Marvel world. I understand what you said. Don't worry. I'll consider it well. Ancient One smiled. Then she looked at the virtual body of the earth in the air. She had guarded the real world for a long time. Then Bruce nodded and did not say anything more. And at this moment, Mordo also appeared. He glanced at Ancient One and Bruce, then said, "He has stayed outside for a long time, and he has not left yet." Before Mordo became a master, he had a similar experience with Stephen Vincent Strange. At that time, he was desperate and confused. And since he finally got this opportunity, an opportunity of rebirth, of course he would not give up. Therefore, Mordo could understand Stephen Vincent Strange most. Let him in. I'll call him tomorrow. Ancient One said, it was just a lesson for the next Sorcerer Supreme, and there would be a lot of lessons for him in the future. He is a very clever person, so there are many things that can't let him know at the beginning. After Mordo left, Bruce looked at Ancient One and warned her. And what he said was the thing that the Ancient One was absorbing the Dark Dimension's power. Then Bruce left directly. After that, he replaced Mordo and once again saw Doctor Strange. I haven't never thought that there would be such a place in the world. At this moment, Strange looked at things around him with curiosity. Even those ordinary people seemed to be the masters who have magical abilities in his eyes. When all the things that one thought before had collapsed, he would be full of awe and curiosity for everything. At the same time, it proved that Doctor Strange's psychological endurance was very strong. If it was someone else, he was already not able to accept it at the beginning. I told you not to see the world with your eyes, but your heart. Sometimes what your eyes saw were just some illusion or some false images. At the moment, Bruce said that. He had read a lot of magic books and known many things, so he had a deeper understanding than Strange. And on the other hand, he could also be Strange's teacher in the terms of magic knowledge. At this moment, Strange nodded with agreement and followed Bruce to his own residence. On his way, he saw many things that he had never seen before. And he slowly began to accept the present world, but his hands were still shaking. This is your room. In addition, you take this away. After saying that, Bruce put a card with several English words in his hands into Strange's. Strange looked at the card in front of him like a treasure. Although he knew that it was just an ordinary paper card, he still asked with full of hope, "Is this the spell I will learn?" After hearing this, Bruce was a little helpless and shook his head slightly. This is just the Wi-Fi password. Don't think too much. I'll live next to you and you can call me if you have any problems. Tomorrow, Master Ancient One will call you, so you'd better be well prepared." After saying that, Bruce left directly. In fact, the cleverer people's mentality would not be better than other ordinary people when he accepted new things. At the moment, Strange was a little embarrassed, then he began to put his luggage. In order to come to Camartage, he had spent all his savings. It could be said that he had lost everything now. If he did not seize this opportunity and cure his hands, he could already be able to predict his future tragic fate. And after seeing Bruce left, he had already made up his mind. These were all that he had not been exposed to, so they were much more profound and interesting than medicine and science for him. Therefore, he started to prepare now. Bruce lived in the room next to Strange's. At the same time, because of his appearance, there would be some changes in the later plot. Next, Ancient One would teach Strange some foundations and theories about magic. As for Bruce, he was arranged by Ancient One to teach him more about magic knowledge. Bruce did not know much magic, but in Camartage, no one knew more than him in terms of knowledge except some experienced teachers. Using magic was important, but the knowledge was more important. Until the next morning, Bruce took Strange to see Ancient One. This time, the lesson took a long time, spending 7 or 8 hours. Because it really needed a lot of effort to make an ordinary person accept these things completely. Chapter 153, Training. When Strange appeared in front of Bruce again, he was a little frustrated and lost. During this time, he heard all those words that he had laughed at before. Ancient One's words were just like the door to a new world, opening in front of him. Even he was shocked by its mystery and wonderfulness. Although he had already told himself that he had to accept these, he still felt very shocked. At the moment, Ancient One stood beside Bruce and looked at Strange, who was still immersed in that statement, with a smile on her face. His original worldview has already collapsed. It may take a while for him to accept that. Next, it's up to you. After hearing this, Bruce nodded slightly. He knew that it was very difficult for a modern person to accept such a thing. But Strange was smart and he could understand it in a short time. Don't worry. Let me deal with the following magic knowledge. At the moment, Bruce nodded. Ancient One had led Bruce to enter the gate of the magic world. Although Bruce has not transformed these knowledge into real magic, it was still quite easy for him to teach a person who was new to magic. The Ancient One left, for she had other things to deal with. As for the following things, Ancient One believed that Bruce was able to do well. After Ancient One left, Bruce went directly to the front of Strange. Well, haven't you accepted it yet? After hearing this, Strange froze for a moment, and shook his head. Although he had suggested to himself that these things were true, it was still a little incredible for him to see them with his own eyes. At present, he only needed to digest what Ancient One had said to him. There is really magic in the world. In the past, I have received higher education and I think I know the truth of the world. But now thinking about it, I've always been too arrogant and stupid. Although Strange was proud, he was also very smart. He had already accepted these, but he didn't fully adapt and get used to it. Especially when he thought of his previous remarks, he was even amused by his stupidity. Others were stupid in his eyes, but at the same time, he was also stupid in the eyes of others. You don't have enough time to digest it. The matter of magic practicing is urgent. After saying that, Bruce went directly to the training ground of Camartage with Strange, a place where some new masters were training. Of course, not everyone could get the instruction of Ancient One. Mordo and other masters were already good enough for teaching these new masters. Then, Bruce let Strange take the sling ring and began to study transmit magic, which was one of the most basic magic. Strange was able to learn them in a short time with his talent, and Bruce also knew that Ancient One wanted Strange to grow up in a short time. My hands get hurt and I can't be controlled at all. At the moment, when Strange saw the sling ring, his face was filled with fear and hesitation. He was a doctor. No hands meant no future. Before, he had saved many people with his hands, but now he couldn't even save himself. Forget everything that happened to you before. Whatever your hand looks like, as long as it can move, there is hope. At this moment, Bruce seemed to have come back to the time that he taught Parker. In terms of teaching, he had sufficient experience. Although he could use little magic, it was enough for him to teach Strange on magic knowledge. After hearing Bruce's words, Strange looked at Bruce's firm eyes, then he nodded. He began to take a sling ring and moved slowly. Sizzle! Strange was worthy of being the next Sorcerer Supreme. The moment he came into contact with magic, he had his own understanding at once. To be honest, Bruce was jealous of this. Because he really had no experience with magic, he didn't have any way on this. More importantly, Strange was the leading role in the plot of Doctor Strange. But Bruce was not afraid. No matter how incredible Strange's magic talent was, as long as he had enough energy value, he could download Strange's abilities instantly with a click. Then all Strange's abilities would be completely transformed into his own. I can't do that. My hands are out of control. At this moment, Strange said directly, looking at Bruce. His hands were trembling all the time, not painfully, but uncontrollably. For a doctor, this was really frightening. Your potential is bigger than that, you just don't bring it out totally. Then Bruce gave Strange several magic books to let him learn some basic knowledge first. This knowledge was very important, especially for the future Sorcerer Supreme. It could be said that Bruce had become the half-teacher of Strange, the next Sorcerer Supreme. In this way, even if Doctor Strange couldn't work for Bruce wholeheartedly, he would definitely trust Bruce in the end. In the following days, Bruce had been teaching Strange some common sense about magic. Of course, what Bruce taught was also that he just learned. It was only because Strange was still new and he could not see it at all. By the time he could see it, Bruce would have had a deeper understanding. During this period, Doctor Strange was making progress rapidly. His talent was not only manifested in medicine and magic, but also in the spell. Doctor Strange could learn many lengthy spells in a short time. He was indeed a real genius, and everyone had seen his progress, including Bruce. This day, Strange was still practicing how to use the sling ring, but he was unable to draw a golden circle all the time. This spell was simple, but it required excellent control. And for Strange, that's what he lacked right now. You have too many thoughts, you always want to do the best, but ignore the magic itself. At this moment, Bruce stood in front of Strange with solemn eyes. He saw Strange's problem at once. No, my hands are out of control. Strange said. He was still blaming his own hands. But at this time, Bruce had already taken out a sling ring. Then he directly drew the passageway connecting the Mount Komolangma peak, and directly walked into the circle with Strange. With the cold wind rustling, the temperature of tens of degrees below zero made Strange shiver. At the moment, Bruce didn't say any nonsense. He just looked at Strange and said, "In a few minutes, you'll freeze to death here." Before Strange reacted, Bruce had already disappeared directly. Chapter 154, Breakthrough. At this moment, Stephen Vincent Strange looked at the endless snow mountain around him and felt a horrible cold flowing on him. He felt that his blood had been solidified. Especially the hypoxia caused by high altitude made him feel dizzy. He never felt so cold and hard. The present Stephen Vincent Strange was wearing a thin cloth, and his fitness was originally not strong enough. Therefore, when facing such a low temperature, he felt a death threat. Bruce, on the other hand, had already come back to Camartage. He thought that Stephen Vincent Strange could stay in that horrible condition for a few minutes because he had a sling ring and plus his own fitness. But a few minutes were already his limits. Once it was more than this time, Stephen Vincent Strange would become an ice sculpture. Anyway, Stephen Vincent Strange was the next Sorcerer Supreme and owned strong magic talent. Therefore, it was not too difficult for him to use such easy magic like the sling ring. What was most difficult was that he did not devote all his energy to magic. Therefore, if Bruce wanted to make such a proud person to be afraid of him and follow his orders, the easiest way was to make him yield and fear directly. What about Stephen Vincent Strange? At this moment, Mordo walked out. He watched only Bruce alone stand there, while Stephen Vincent Strange was gone. This made him feel strange. I'm helping him to see if he can break through his limits. Then Bruce said this quietly and a smile appeared on his face. But Mordo was shocked by his words. He did not know what Bruce had done to Stephen Vincent Strange, but he knew that it was not a simple training definitely. Bruce, where did you get him? He's the next Sorcerer Supreme. Tell me quickly where you sent him to. It's too dangerous. At the moment, Mordo said this seriously. Ancient One said that Stephen Vincent Strange was the next Sorcerer Supreme. If he was in danger, it would bring a lot of trouble. Bruce just sent him to Mount Komolangma. It is fine. When Mordo was anxious, the Ancient One appeared in front of them. She wore a golden robe and seemed to have an inexplicable temperament, which made people admire. This was just the charm of the Sorcerer Supreme. As for the anxious Mordo, after he heard Ancient One's words, he was shocked and felt amazed. Did you really send him to Mount Komolangma? That was the highest mountain in the world. No matter if it was its oxygen content, or the desperate temperature, even their master could not stand it, not to mention ordinary people. Although the master's magic power was strong, their body was very fragile. More importantly, Stephen Vincent Strange's body had not yet been fully recovered. Therefore, throwing him alone in that place was equal to letting him die. At the moment, Bruce just nodded his head after he heard Mordo's words and he said helplessly, "It is just Mount Komolangma, don't be too surprised. Just see it quietly." Then Mordo looked at Ancient One behind him. She seemed to agree with Bruce's view and nodded. At the moment, Mordo was confused whether Stephen Vincent Strange was the next Sorcerer Supreme. Just leaving him there alone. And don't let me help him? No, it can't go on like this. The moment Mordo said, he was ready to take off his sling ring and go to take back Stephen Vincent Strange. Mordo, don't worry. After a few seconds, you will see. Then Bruce stopped Mordo playing magic and said calmly, with a solemn expression on his face. And Ancient One was still very calm. But Ancient One just did not move her body, she still felt a little worried in her heart. However, she chose to believe Bruce and the next Sorcerer Supreme's talent. Therefore, she was so calm now. As for Mordo, after he heard Bruce's solemn words, he slowly put down his palm. At the moment, he looked at Bruce in front of him and took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. Then the three men were waiting quietly. Because Stephen Vincent Strange did not practice magic for a long time, no one knew how much he could do. All of it depended on himself. Sizzle. At this moment, in front of the three people, a golden circle had appeared and Stephen Vincent Strange walked out from it, his whole body seemed to be frozen. Then he directly threw himself down in front of the Ancient One. Although it was only less than 2 minutes, the temperature there was too low. Therefore, if he did not take full advantage of the sling ring at the critical moment, he would definitely die in that place. At the moment, he slowly raised his head and looked at the three of them. There were some strange things in his eyes. Especially when he looked at Bruce, there was a hint of fear. The person in front of him directly left him in that place regardless of anything. Therefore, if he really angered him, he could not expect what would happen next to him. That's good. Mordo, let him warm up. After saying that, Bruce left directly, and Ancient One also nodded slightly now and left the place with Bruce together. At the moment, Mordo was a little confused when he saw the two people. But at his feet, Stephen Vincent Strange was shaking heavily. If he could not recover back as soon as possible, it would cause permanent frost injuries. That was very serious. Thinking of this, Mordo directly took Stephen Vincent Strange away. At the moment, Ancient One and Bruce walked shoulder to shoulder. He's indeed very talented, but he's too proud. Bruce sighed. Just a few minutes passed, and Dr. Stephen Vincent Strange had completed the teleport magic that he could not control a few days ago. It would definitely not be impossible for Bruce to do this. This is his biggest problem. Fortunately, you have given him a lesson. It seems that the rest of his life will be afraid of you. It's a good thing. At the moment, the Ancient One said this with a smile. She had seen it when Bruce left Stephen Vincent Strange at Mount Komolangma. But she did not stop, because it did have a great benefit. And the best was to let Stephen Vincent Strange have a fear. Even though Bruce's magic power could not be compared to Stephen Vincent Strange, Bruce had other abilities. Especially origin magic power, it exceeded all natural magic. Therefore, in the future, if Stephen Vincent Strange did some things that were not allowed, Bruce could also restrain him. Because as an ordinary person, if he once got the power, it was difficult for him to control the desire for strength. So he had to be restrained. This marks the end of part 22 of the story Marvel Unlimited Skills, I Can Download. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.